Okay, good morning, everyone. Am I audible to everyone? Okay. Okay, so yesterday, okay, I got your reply. So yesterday only on our WhatsApp group, I have circulated one notice uh, that is regarding the essay competition. Okay, so all the students under Sveri umbrella are hereby informed to know that we are going to organize essay competition on the occasion of Mahatma Gandhi Jayanti on 2nd October, right? So for that, as always, the topic for essay competition is my contribution towards society. समाजासाठी माझे योगदान, समाज के प्रति मेरा योगदान. ठीक है. So you have to submit. In case if you are writing your essay, then submit it in PDF format to me before 26th of September. So you are having 2 days in hands. Okay, so on 26th, at the end of that day, I will be sending those documents to HOD madam. So if you are going to write those essays, submit it on priority basis. Okay, so we'll move towards our academics. That is, we have started with our third unit, remote procedure calls. So in that we are already covered with the RPC model. I'm just going through the slides so that you can get the idea, those who were absent for yesterday's lecture, so they can get the idea which we have studied in the last to last lecture and before that also. Okay, so implementation of RPC mechanism, its block diagram we have seen already. Then it's all the parts like client stub, then the RPC runtime, server stub, and the server. Then the technique of stub generation, that is manually and automatically, that we have seen. Then RPC messages we have studied in our yesterday's lecture. So how we are going to use these kind of messages in case of RPCs, that is the two types we have seen, that is call messages and reply messages. So for call messages, how the format, message format is there, that we have studied. So it is having mainly two parts, that is the identification information and the argument part. So identification information or the remote procedure identifier is including the program number, version number, and the procedure number. And the arguments part is having variable length. Why? Because it is depending upon the procedure that you are going to call. So that's why it is shown with this symbol. And the next three parts, that is the message identification, message type, and the client identification. So these five parts are consisting your RPC call message format that we have seen in our yesterday's lecture. Then second part, that is the reply messages. So the five conditions for failure of the messages, reply messages, those we have seen. So in the first case, the server finds that the call message is not intelligible to it. So this may happen when a call message violates the RPC protocol. So if the server is rejecting your call, so that time you will be sending the reply message as a unsuccessful one. Second case is the server detects by scanning the client's identifier field that the client is not authorized to use the service. So if unauthorized user or unauthorized client is trying to access a particular procedure, at that time server will deny that request uh, without attempting to execute the procedure. So this is second reason for sending unsuccessful message. Third is the server finds that the remote program version or procedure number specified in the remote procedure identifier field of the call message is not available with it. So in the message format of the call message, we have seen that the message identifier, message type, and program number, version number, and the procedure number. This particular identifier field, if it is not found with the server, then at that time, without executing the procedure, server will send the unsuccessful reply message. Fourth condition is if this stage is reached, an attempt will be made to execute the remote procedure specified in the call message. Therefore, it may happen that the remote procedure is not able to decode the supplied arguments. So this may happen due to an incompatible RPC interface being used by the client and the server. So for this, we have seen that the syntactic and semantics of both the clients and server machine should be identical one to uh, execute your remote procedure calls. So this is the fourth condition. And fifth is an exception condition occurs, such as divide by zero or any of the exceptions that we have seen in case of in the chapter of exception handling of Java programming as well. So those kind of exceptions, if they occurs while executing the program specified remote procedure, then also your server will be sending the unsuccessful reply message. So these are the 5 conditions for which your reply message will be in unsuccessful uh, mode. And what is the next? That is sixth condition, that is the specified remote procedure is executed successfully. Successfully means it is executing all the procedure and sending back the reply as a successful, as well as if any kind of result of that procedure, so that will also be included in the arguments part. So according to that, your reply message will be having this kind of format. So the successful reply message will be having the format like the message identifier, message type, and the reply status, that is nothing but the successful, and its respective results. So for that result again, it is having variable length. So that is denoted by this symbol. Okay, so depending upon the requirement from the client, that is or means how long the result length will be there. So according to that, this result length will vary. And the second type of format is for unsuccessful reply message format. So here again, the first two fields will be same. Third is the reply status, that will be showing you the unsuccessfulness, and the last field will be having the result for the failure. So this is the typical RPC reply message format. So you may get the question that explain RPC reply message format or call message format. Okay, so you should be able to answer it by explaining the diagram of both. Then marshalling of the arguments and the results. So marshalling is nothing but what? So it is explained in the here definition over here, that is the transfer of message data between the two computers require encoding and decoding of message data. So for RPCs, this operation is known as the marshalling, and it basically involves the following actions. So in that, the first action is taking the arguments, that is from the client or the result of the server process. So depending upon the condition, whether you are processing the client's request or getting the reply from the server, so that will form the message data to be sent to the remote process. So taking the argument is your first step. Second is encoding the message data of step number 1. So here This encoding process involves the conversion of program objects into a stream form that is suitable for transmission and placing them into a message buffer. So in the second step, encoding of the message data will take place, and the third step is nothing but the decoding of message data. So here this decoding process involves the reconstruction of program objects from the message data that was received in the stream form. So conversion of that stream form into the original data, that is nothing but the decoding, that will take place at the third step. Okay. So again, this marshalling procedure is divided into two groups. So the first is those provided as a part of the RPC software. Normally, marshalling procedures for scalar data types together with procedures to marshal the compound types built from the scalar ones fall in this group. And second is those that are defined by the users of the RPC system. Okay, so these are the two types. Then again, in the last lecture only, we have seen the server management. So in that, in RPC based applications, two important issues that need to be considered for server management, and that are the implementation of the server and server creation. So in case of server implementation, we have seen the two types of server, that is stateful servers and stateless server. So what is stateful server? So it is involving all the information related to all the requests coming from the client, and its entry will be stored in the file table at the server side. So this stateful server maintains the client's state information from one remote procedure call to the next one. So that is, in case of two subsequent calls by a client to a stateful server, some state information pertaining to the service performed for the client as a result of the first call execution is stored by the server process. So that we have seen with the diagram also. So here in this case, we are having 5 different operations, that is the open with file name and the mode, then read with file name or file ID, then n and the buffer, write operation with the file name ID, n and the buffer. N is the size of how many bytes you want to write or read here. Seek FID and the position. Seek is giving you that you are going to or directly jumping to the position given by this particular argument, and then close with the FID, the file which you have opened for this reading, writing or seeking purpose, that you are going to close. So all this information is stored at the server side with the file table. Okay, so this is how the execution of stateful server will take place. Then next is the stateless server. So here all the file state information will be stored at the client process side. Okay, so here you are having read and write operation. So read operation, it will be involving the file name, position, n and the buffer. So client is requesting for this, say for example read operation, so 0 from 0th location then how many number of bytes you want, so 100, and you are going to store it in the buffer. So server will return you the 0 to 99 bytes of information. Similarly, again if you are calling the same request for read file name, now you are going from 100th location, then next 100 bytes, and you are going to store it in the buffer. Then server will give you the reply as from 100th to 199th bytes of information. So all this information you are going to store in the file state information at client process side. So this is how the stateless server will be implemented. So here you are not going to store any information related to any of the file at server location. That is why it is called as a stateless server. So these two types we have seen. And the second part of this is server creation semantics. So based on the time duration for which RPC servers survive, they may be classified as a instance per call servers, instance per transaction session servers, or persistent servers. So these three types we have seen, that is instance per call. So instance will be generated per call at the server side. That means whatever the request coming from the client, for that particular single call only, that instance of the server will be maintained. So this is the first type. Second, instant per session. So for a particular session, maybe this session will be according to the time. So suppose for example I am giving the time of say 30 minutes. So for that 30 minutes it will be maintaining the session at server side. Okay, so this is the second type. And the third one will be the persistent server. So here persistent means it remains in existence indefinitely. Okay, so we saw that the servers of the previous two types cannot be shared by two or more clients, okay, because they are exclusively created, right? So for a particular client on demand. But here in case of persistent server, it is usually shared by many of the clients. Okay, so these are the three types of server creation semantics. So up to this point we have seen in our last lecture. So I repeated all the things because many of the students were absent in day before yesterday's lectures. That is why. So our next point of today's lecture is parameter passing semantics. Okay, so already from the first year only we are seeing this particular point, that is parameter passing. So that is by call by value and call by reference. So the choice of parameter passing semantics is bit crucial to the design of RPC mechanism. How you are going to design your RPC, depending upon that you are going to follow this particular any one of these technique. So the two choices are call by value and call by reference. The first one is call by value. So in this method, all the parameters are copied in a message that is transmitted from the client to the server through the intervening network. So this poses no problems for a simple compact types such as like integers, counters, small arrays, and so on. So the basic data type, it is not having any kind of problem. However, passing the larger data types like multidimensional arrays, trees, and so on may consume much time for transmission of the data that may not be used. Okay, so therefore this method is not suitable for passing parameter involving the voluminous data, means large sized data. This is one of the technique. And the second is call by reference. So most of the RPC mechanisms use the call by value semantics for parameter passing because the client and the server exist in different address space. So possibly even on different types of machine, so that the passing of the pointers or passing of the parameters by reference is kind of meaningless. Still, however, a few RPC mechanisms do allow passing of the parameters by reference, in which pointers to the parameters are passed to the client and the servers. So these are usually closed systems where a single address space is shared by all processes in the system. So for example, in distributed system which are having the distributed shared memory mechanism, you can see this kind of technique of call by reference. So in our first topic only, we have seen the type like shared memory. Okay, so in that, suppose you are sharing one particular location with multiple clients at that time, accessing of that particular data by using its reference, means by sharing its address space will take place. So these are the two types of parameter passing. Then coming towards the call semantics. So in RPC, the caller and the callee means what? Your client and the server. These are the processes which are possibly located on different nodes. Okay, many times we are executing our program on a local host, but we are supposed to execute it on different machines, different nodes. So thus it is possible for either the caller or the callee node to fail independently and later to be restarted. Okay, so in this condition, that is the failure of communication links between the caller and the callee nodes is also possible. We can't say which particular node will get failed at which particular time. So in second chapter we have seen the scenarios, that is client is sending the message but it is getting lost, or suppose server is giving you the reply or giving the reply to the client but it is getting lost in between because of some reasons. Or suppose for example, while sending the reply message, server get failed, some kind of crashing is done at the server side. Or suppose for example, you are giving the acknowledgement from the client side to the server, but at that time, though you are getting the response, still if the client's node get uh, crashed or failed, at that time he will not be able to give the response message to the server. So these are some of the scenarios by which the client or the server node may get crashed or failed. So therefore, the normal functioning of the RPC may get disrupted due to one or more of the following reasons. So these reasons may be: the first is the call message gets lost, then the response message gets lost, then the callee node crashes and is restarted, and the next one is the caller node crashed and restarted. Okay, so who is the caller? That is a client, and callee is a server. So maybe any of them may get crashed and the system gets restarted. So at that time you will not be able to get proper acknowledgement or proper um, communication between both the machines. Okay, so these are the scenarios for that. So some elements of a caller nodes um, okay, so some elements of the caller's node that is involved in the RPC must contain necessary code to handle these kind of failures. So the failure handling code is generally a part of RPC runtime. The call semantics of an RPC system that determines how often the remote procedure may be executed under fault conditions depend on this part. The RPC runtime code will take place. So the different types of call semantics under RPC systems are listed below. That is, the first one is possibly or may be call semantics. So in this particular method, to prevent the caller from waiting indefinitely for a response from the callee, a timeout mechanism is used. So that is, the caller will wait until the predetermined timeout period and then continues with its execution. Therefore, the semantics does not guarantee anything about the receipt of the call message or the procedure execution by the caller. So this semantics may be adequate for some applications in which response message is not important for the caller and where the application operates within a local area network having a high probability of successful transmission of messages. सो सपोज फॉर एक्झाम्पल याची कंडिशन आपण सेकंड टॉपिक मध्ये बघितली होती, जिथे आपण फेल्युअर हँडलिंग टेक्निक्स बघितल्या होत्या. सो आय विल बी सेटिंग द टाइम आउट पिरियड ऑफ से फॉर एक्झाम्पल 10 सेकंड्स. ओके, सो 10 सेकंड साठी मी वेट करेन की कॉलरनी मला काही मेसेज केलेला आहे का. सो जर त्या पिरियड मध्ये मला टाइम आउट म्हणजे कुठलीही रिक्वेस्ट आली नाही, तर आय विल proceed with execution at my end. If in between or before the timeout, if I am getting the request from the client, then I will process that particular request. Okay, so this is the first scenario, that is possibly or maybe call semantics. Second is last one, call semantics. So it uses the idea of retransmitting the call message based on timeouts until a response is received by the caller. So that is the calling of the remote procedure by the caller, the execution of the procedure by the callee, and return of the result to the caller will eventually be repeated until the result of the procedure execution is received by the caller. Okay, so here like the result of the last executed call are used by the caller, although earlier calls may have had some side effects that survived the crash. Hence, this semantic is called as a last one semantics. That means what? Here I will be sending the request. म्हणजे सपोज मी क्लायंट असेल तर मी काहीतरी रिक्वेस्ट पाठवेन, ती जर माझी टाइमआउट पिरियडच्या आधीपर्यंत सर्व्हर पर्यंत पोहोचली तर सर्व्हर त्याच्यावरती काहीतरी ऍक्शन घेईल, प्रोसिजर एक्झिक्यूट करेल, त्याचा रिस्पॉन्स पाठवेल मला, आणि तो रिस्पॉन्स माझ्यापर्यंत पोहोचलेला आहे याची एक्नॉलेजमेंट मी पुन्हा एकदा सर्व्हरला पाठवेन. सो हे तीनही कॉल म्हणजे क्लायंट टू सर्व्हर, सर्व्हर टू क्लायंट रिप्लाय अँड अगेन एक्नॉलेजमेंट फ्रॉम क्लायंट टू सर्व्हर, हे पूर्ण जोपर्यंत तुमची सायकल कंप्लीट होत नाही तोपर्यंतचा एक आपण कॉल जर कन्सिडर केला, सो दॅट इज नथिंग बट युअर लास्ट वन कॉल सिमेंटिक्स. ओके, थर्ड टाइप इज last of many call semantics. So this is similar to the last one call semantics, except that the orphan calls are neglected. Orphan म्हणजे कुठले की लाईक जे थर्ड वाला जो होता, म्हणजे की क्लायंट कडून एक्नॉलेजमेंट मला मिळालेली आहे. सपोज काहीतरी ऍडिशनचा एक सिंपल एक्झाम्पल जर आपण बघितलं, ऍडिशन साठी मी काहीतरी 2 आर्ग्युमेंट पाठवल्या, त्याचा रिप्लाय मेसेज मला सर्व्हर कडून मिळाला आणि मी पुन्हा क्लायंट ऍज अ क्लायंट सर्व्हरला एक्नॉलेजमेंट पाठवली की येस ओके आय एम गेटिंग द रिझल्ट. सो इन दिस पर्टिक्युलर सिनारिओ ऑर्फन कॉल, लास्ट जो ऑर्फन कॉल जो आहे की एक्नॉलेजमेंट वाला, तो समटाइम्स निग्लेक्ट होऊ शकतो. सो a simple way to neglect the orphan call is to use the call identifiers to uniquely identify each of the call. So when a call is repeated, it is assigned a new call identifier. आता या केस मध्ये जेव्हा मी एक्नॉलेजमेंट पाठवणार आहे तर ती एक्नॉलेजमेंट कोणाची असेल की जो आधीचा मला रिप्लाय मेसेज आला सर्व्हर कडून. रिप्लाय कोणाचा आला की ज्यासाठी मी रिक्वेस्ट सेंड केलेली होती. म्हणजे या तिन्ही कॉल मध्ये माझा मेसेज आयडेंटिफायर जो आहे तो सेम असणार आहे, कारण बिकॉज आय विल बी प्रोसेसिंग द सेम प्रोसिजर किंवा एक पर्टिक्युलर पार्ट, एक पर्टिक्युलर कॉल संपूर्णपणे कंप्लीट होण्यासाठी मी तो पर्टिक्युलर आयडेंटिफायर डिफाईन करणार आहे. बरोबर आहे. तर त्यामुळे मी जेव्हा एक्नॉलेजमेंट पाठवणार आहे, सो ॲट दॅट टाइम ऑफ सेंडिंग द एक्नॉलेजमेंट आय विल बी युझिंग दॅट सेम आयडेंटिफायर. ओके, सो या आयडेंटिफायर वरून काय होईल की सर्व्हरला कळेल त्याच पर्टिक्युलर मेसेजची रिलेटेड हा मेसेज आहे, त्यामुळे देर मे बी चान्सेस ऑफ गेटिंग दॅट पर्टिक्युलर मेसेज निग्लेक्टेड. आणि एक्नॉलेजमेंट ही मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम या थर्ड टाइप साठी आपण निग्लेक्ट करणार आहोत. ओके, सो each response message has the corresponding call identifier associated with it. A caller accepts a response only if the call identifier associated with it matches with the identifier of the most recently repeated call. Most recently repeated call. Otherwise, it will ignore the response message. सो या केसमध्ये जर आधीचा जो रिप्लाय मेसेज मी पाठवलेला आहे त्याच्याशी रिलेटेडच माझं जर एक्नॉलेजमेंट जात असेल तर ती फक्त ऍक्सेप्ट केली जाईल. अदरवाइज इट विल बी इग्नोर्ड. गेटिंग द कन्सेप्ट? Okay, so now the next part, that is the fourth one, that is at least once call semantics. So this is an even weaker call semantics than that of the last of many call semantics. So it is just guarantees that the call is executed one or more times but does not specify which results are returned to the caller. So it can be implemented simply by using timeout based transmission without caring for the orphan calls. So that is for nested calls. If there are any orphan calls, it takes the rest of the first response message and ignores the others, whether or not the accepted response is from the orphan. So here in this case, whatever the request coming from the client, I will be doing the actions on that as a server and sending back the reply message. So no matter here, I will not be waiting for any kind of acknowledgement, any kind of orphan call from the client side. Just माझ्याकडे त्या ऑपरेशनचा रिझल्ट झालेला आहे तर मी फक्त पाठवून देणार आहे. आय विल नॉट वेट फॉर एनी काइंड ऑफ एक्नॉलेजमेंट इन दिस केस. So that is the fourth part, at least once call semantics. And next is fifth, exactly once call semantics. Exactly once. So this is the strongest and the most desirable call semantics because it eliminates the possibility of a procedure being executed more than once, no matter how many times a call is retransmitted. Okay, so the last one, last of many, at least one call semantics cannot guarantee these kind of things. Means what we are going to do here in this case? So no matter for how many times your client or the server machine is getting crashed, आता प्रत्येक वेळेला काय प्रत्येक कॉल साठी काय क्रॅश होत बसणार नाहीये मशीन. सो जितक्या वेळेला रिक्वेस्ट तुमच्या क्लायंटची येणार आहे आणि जितक्या वेळेला तुम्ही त्याचा रिस्पॉन्स पाठवणार आहात ती पूर्ण सायकल कंप्लीट होईपर्यंत, ओके, ती पूर्ण सायकल कंप्लीट होईपर्यंत जे काही म्हणजे फॉलोअप असणार आहेत की रिक्वेस्ट मेसेज आलेला आहे, रिप्लाय आलाय, एक्नॉलेजमेंट आलाय, त्या सगळ्यांचं all those entries will be stored somewhere and all these will be monitored properly in this particular cycle. So this is not the case in case of last one, last of many, then at least one, this call semantics. But still it is having the disadvantage that this cheap semantics is that they force the application programmer to design idempotent interfaces that guarantee that if a procedure is executed more than once with the same parameter, the same results and the side effects will be produced. So suppose for example, या केसमध्ये काय होईल की काहीतरी डेटा मला क्लायंट कडून येतोय, त्याच्यावरती जर एखादा एरर मेसेज प्रोड्यूस होत असेल सर्व्हर साइड करून, तर याच्यामध्ये आपली सायकल कंप्लीट होईपर्यंत पूर्ण मॉनिटर केलं जाणार आहे. सो जर सपोज फॉर एक्झाम्पल you are getting some kind of exceptions in producing that particular request, so again those will be ignored and still the cycle of maintaining all the information will get continued. So this is the disadvantage. म्हणजे सपोज फॉर एक्झाम्पल क्लायंटने तुम्हाला काहीतरी डेटा पाठवला ज्यावरती से काहीतरी एक्सेप्शन येत आहे डिवाइड बाय 0 or something. So here in this case client will not be getting the proper result at his end. So he will send the same request again. Same reply will be sent by the server again. So this cycle will get continued. So you need to stop it at one particular time or with some kind of say timeouts. Okay, so this is the fifth type, exactly once call semantics. So these are the 5 call semantics. Question may be asked on this, so you have to explain any two with 4 marks or so. So any doubt in this? You can reply in the chat window. What about others? Okay, so next bit is communication protocols for RPCs. So before proceeding to that point, uh, just unmute your mic for 10 seconds. Be fast. Everyone, unmute your mics. I think instructions are for students, not for others. Thank you. At least you are sitting idle. So आता ज्यांनी अनम्यूट केलं नाही ते आपल्या आपल्या जागी नाही तसा मी अर्थ काढायला हरकत नाहीये. Everyone mute your mic. Okay, so the next bit is communication protocols for RPCs. So, based on the needs of the different systems, several communication protocols have been proposed for use in RPCs, and those are request protocol, request reply protocol, and request reply, acknowledgement reply protocol. So, the first one we are going to see now, that is the request protocol. So, this protocol is also known as R protocol. R is for request, right? So it is used in RPCs in which the called procedure has nothing to return as a result of a procedure execution, and the client requires no information that the procedure has been executed. Okay, so in the diagram, your R protocol is shown. So client side, server side, client is just sending the request message. It will be executed at the server end. The client will not be waiting for any kind of reply message from the server. Then this is the first dotted block is showing you the first RPC. Then for the next RPC, again the client will be sending some request message. It will be executed at the server side, but again the client will not be waiting for any kind of a reply message from the server. So this is nothing but the R protocol. So since no acknowledgement or the reply is involved in this protocol, only one message per call is transmitted from the client to the server. Only one message per call. ओके, सो पर कॉल म्हणजेच काय, हा जो डॉटेड ब्लॉक दाखवलेला आहे आरपीसी, तर एका ब्लॉक मध्ये किती कॉल गेले तुमचे, तर फक्त एकच रिक्वेस्ट मेसेज, तो पण क्लायंट कडून सर्व्हर कडे. ओके, सो दिस वन कॉल will be involving only one message, right? So the client normally proceeds immediately after sending the request message, as there is no need to wait for a reply message. म्हणजेच काय की यामध्ये कुठल्याही पद्धतीचं वेटिंग सर्व्हर कडून नाहीये, त्यामुळे क्लायंटचा रिक्वेस्ट मेसेज गेल्यानंतर कुठल्याही पद्धतीनं डॉटेड किंवा ब्लॉक्ड स्टेट मध्ये तुमचा क्लायंट जाणार नाही. ही विल बी कंटिन्यूइंग विथ हिज एक्झिक्युशन अगेन, right? So the protocol provides maybe call semantics and require no retransmission of the request messages. So an RPC that uses the R protocol is called asynchronous RPC. What is asynchronous? That means you are just sending your request, not waiting for any kind of a reply, right? So any practical example for this R protocol? You are just saying something and not at all waiting for any kind of a reply. Any example? Yes, any example? You can say the ping protocol in this case. Okay, ping protocol मध्ये तुम्ही काय करता, ping and you are giving the IP address of your server. सो त्यामुळे काय होतंय की तुम्हाला फक्त नाही, पण याच्यामध्ये तुम्हाला रिप्लाय येतो सर्व्हरचा, बट स्टील याची केस कशी कन्सिडर करू शकता तुम्ही, तुम्ही रिक्वेस्ट केली आहे, तुम्हाला सर्व्हर कडून रिप्लाय मेसेज येतो एक पर्टिक्युलर 1 मायक्रो सेकंडच्या स्पीड मध्ये. ओके, पण याच्यामुळे कुठल्याही पद्धतीचं हॅम्परिंग होत आहे का सर्व्हर साइडला? नाही होत आहे. म्हणजे जस्ट यू आर गोइंग टू चेक द कनेक्शन विथ the server from client side. अजून काही एक्झाम्पल? ओव्हरऑल जर एक्झाम्पल बघायला गेलात तुम्ही तर मग मे बी तुम्ही एखाद्या आता जी जशी आपली लेक्चरची रूम आहे तशी सपोज एखादा तुम्ही वर्कशॉप वगैरे अटेंड करताय वगैरे, ठीक आहे, तर त्या केसमध्ये somebody are sending the message like good morning, good afternoon or so. Are they waiting for the reply from the speaker that he will be saying good morning to each one and every one of you? No. So here you are sending the request or sending just the message to show your existence in that group. म्हणजे तुम्ही एक फक्त मेसेज टाकलाय आणि तुमचं काम चालू केलंय. सो तुम्ही आहात, तुमचा एक्झिस्टन्स आहे एवढंच तिथं फक्त कळतंय. बाकी तुम्ही कुठल्याही पद्धतीच्या रिप्लाय मेसेजची किंवा स्पीकरनं तुमच्या फ्रेंडनं तुम्हाला पुन्हा रिटर्न बॅक गुड मॉर्निंग म्हणायला पाहिजे यासाठी तुम्ही वेट करत नाही. तुम्ही फक्त एक मेसेज ग्रुपमध्ये टाकताय, बरोबर. सो हे एक एक्झाम्पल किंवा पिंग प्रोटोकॉलचं एखादं एक्झाम्पल तुम्ही सांगू शकता. एनी अदर एक्झाम्पल फ्रॉम युअर साइड? येस, ओके, गुड. योगिता इज सेइंग नोटीस फ्रॉम एचओडी. सो नोटीस किंवा अशा काही इन्स्ट्रक्शन्स ज्या काही असतील त्या एचओडी च्याकडून मेलवरती टाकल्या गेल्या किंवा नोटीस बोर्डला लावल्या गेल्या तर त्यांच्याकडून दे आर डन विथ देअर वर्क. ते किती जणांनी पाहिलंय किंवा त्याच्यावरती त्या केसमध्ये त्या ह्याला ऍक्शन होतीये किंवा नाही होतीये त्याच्यावरती वेट करायची काही गरज नाहीये. सो दॅट इन्स्ट्रक्शन इज reached to everyone who are going to look into that. Okay, good, not an issue. So you are clear with the request protocol. Second is request reply protocol. So here this protocol is also known as RR, that is request reply protocol. It is useful for the design of system involving simple RPCs. So a simple RPC is one in which all the arguments as well as all the results fit in a single packet buffer and the duration of a call and the interval between the calls are both short, so they can be less than the transmission time for a packet between the client and server. So तेवढ्या स्मॉल ड्युरेशन साठी तो तुमचा एक पर्टिक्युलर कॉल असणार आहे. So the protocol is based on the idea of using implicit acknowledgement to eliminate explicit acknowledgement messages. So therefore in this protocol a server's reply message is regarded as a acknowledgement of the client's request message, and secondly a subsequent call packet from the client is regarded as an acknowledgement of the server's reply of the previous call made by that particular client. So the exchange of messages between the client and the server in RR protocol are given in this diagram like this. So client is आता याच्यामध्ये you have to wait for the reply message from the server side. That's why again here client is shown with a dotted part. So client is sending the request message. The execution of the procedure is done at the server side. Reply message will be sent. So here the reply message is also serving as the acknowledgement for the request message. जे एक रिक्वेस्ट मला आली आहे त्याची एक्नॉलेजमेंट म्हणून किंवा ऍज अ रिप्लाय दोन्ही प्रकारे तुम्ही सर्व्हर कडून रिप्लाय मेसेज पाठवणार आहात. देन अगेन युअर क्लायंट विल proceed with its execution for the next call, that is next RPC. He is sending the request message. That means again it will be serving as the acknowledgement for the reply ऑफ द प्रिव्हियस आरपीसी, म्हणजे हा जो तुम्हाला रिप्लाय मेसेज आला आहे त्याची एक्नॉलेजमेंट म्हणून तुम्ही पुढची पाठवलेला रिक्वेस्ट मेसेज असेल. अगेन द एक्झिक्युशन विल बी डन अँड देन द रिप्लाय मेसेज विल बी शोइंग यू द एक्नॉलेजमेंट ऑफ दिस थर्ड रिक्वेस्ट, दिस सेकंड रिक्वेस्ट कमिंग फ्रॉम द क्लायंट. ओके, त्याचं हे रिप्लाय एज वेल एज एक्नॉलेजमेंट असणार आहे. सो एका पर्टिक्युलर ब्लॉकमध्ये, एका पर्टिक्युलर आरपीसी मध्ये रिक्वेस्ट एज वेल एज रिप्लाय बोथ विल बी included. So that's why this call or this protocol is called as a RR, request reply protocol. Okay. So here this figure, in this figure, the protocol involved the transmission of only two packets per call, that is one in each direction. Okay, the RR protocol in its basic form does not possess failure handling capabilities. Therefore, to take care of lost messages, the timeouts and retries technique is normally used along with the RR protocol. Okay, so timeouts and uh, retries techniques are used in case of any of the message is getting failed. So suppose for example रिक्वेस्ट मेसेज तुमचा गेलेला आहे, याच्यासाठी रिप्लाय मेसेज आला नाही, इथे काहीतरी प्रॉब्लेम झाला, सर्व्हर क्रॅश झाला, त्याचा रिप्लाय आला नाही. ओके, सो नेक्स्ट टाइम जेव्हा तुमचा नेक्स्ट कॉल जेव्हा जाणार आहे, तर त्यावेळेला इथं जो नेक्स्ट कॉल जनरेट होणार आहे क्लायंट कडून, तो काय असणार आहे, तो पहिल्यासारखाच असणार आहे. का? कारण पहिल्याच रिक्वेस्ट मेसेजला तुम्हाला रिप्लाय मिळालेला नाही, त्यामुळे द सेम रिक्वेस्ट विल बी सेंट आफ्टर सम टाइम आउट पिरियड अगेन टू द सर्व्हर. सो व्हॉट डज इट मीन? याच्यावरून सर्व्हरला काय करणार आहे, किंवा पहिला वाला जो रिक्वेस्ट आहे तोच पुन्हा इथे रिपीट झालाय, म्हणजेच ऑब्व्हियसली he is retransmitting the same request and my first reply message is not reached properly to my client. Okay, so अशा पद्धतीच्या टाइम आउट्स किंवा रिट्राइज टेक्निक तुम्ही यामध्ये यूज करू शकता. एनी प्रॅक्टिकल एक्झाम्पल फॉर दिस? Just like before some days, Kulkarni sir has sent the receipts of your fees filled, exam fee receipts, right? So what he was expecting in that, he's sending the data to you, and those who are not finding their receipts, they should have to reply him back. Okay, so या केस मध्ये काहीतरी रिक्वेस्ट केली, त्याच्यासाठी तुम्हाला रिस्पॉन्स येतोय. ओके, हे नॉर्मल एक्झाम्पल झालं. एनी अदर? ओके, प्रॅक्टिकल एक्झाम्पल विचारलंय आणि त्याच्यासाठी तुम्ही रिस्पॉन्स देताय, गुड. पण रिस्पॉन्स सगळ्यांकडून येत नाहीये. सो जे झोपलेले आहेत त्यांना हलवून हलवून जाग करायचं त्यांच्याकडून, म्हणजे त्यांच्यापर्यंत रिक्वेस्ट गेलेली नाहीये, त्यांना मी जाग करेन आणि मग ते परत मला रिप्लाय बॅक देतील. असं काही आहे का? एक्झाम्पल? डेंजर आहे. Okay, fine. So at the start of the lecture only, I have shown you one snapshot that is regarding the essay competition notice. So तो वाला तुम्हाला रिक्वेस्ट किंवा दॅट विल बी शेअर्ड विथ यू ॲज अ रिक्वेस्ट, आणि त्याचे जे कोणी एसे कॉम्पिटिशन लिहून मला रिप्लाय देतील दोज विल बी द रिस्पॉन्सेस. दुसरं एखादं एक्झाम्पल म्हणता यायचं म्हटलं तर okay, very good example from Yogita. That is when we do any kind of registration, we get the mail registration successful as a response. Very nice example. And again, Saili is saying that about presente. Okay, we are calling the roll calls and you are giving the reply as yes, I am present, like that. Okay, that is also good example. Yogita's example you can explain while writing the answer as well. Okay, very nice example. की जी काही रिक्वेस्ट तुम्ही टाकत आहात त्याच्यासाठी येणारा तुमचा रिस्पॉन्स, एखादी लिंक शेअर केली तर त्याच्यासाठी येणारे सगळे रिस्पॉन्सेस. Very nice. Fine. So the point is clear with you all. The third category is request reply, acknowledgement reply protocol. Okay. So this protocol is also known as RRA protocol. Request, reply and acknowledgement reply. Acknowledgement नुसता वर्ड पण आहे, पण त्याच्या बरोबर acknowledgement reply असा वर्ड आहे. But still we are using the initials of request, reply and acknowledgement, that is RRA protocol. So the implementation of exactly one's call semantics with RR protocol require the server to maintain a record of the replies in its reply cache. So in situations where a server has a large number of clients, this may result in a servers needing to store large quantities of information. So in some of the implementations, servers restricts the quantity of such data by discarding it after a limited period of time. So बऱ्याच ठिकाणी तुम्हाला असं बघायला मिळतं की काही रेजिस्ट्रेशन साठी लिमिटेड एंट्री तुम्ही ठेवल्या. सपोज आय वॉन्ट ओनली 100 एंट्रीज फॉर समथिंग. सो after 100 you will be getting the acknowledgement, okay, my quota is full now. So this approach is not fully reliable because sometimes it may lead to loss of those replies that have not yet been successfully delivered to the clients. So to overcome this limitation of RR protocol, the RRA protocol is used, which requires clients to acknowledge the receipt of reply messages. The server deletes an information from its reply cache only after receiving an acknowledgement for it from the client. Okay, so like as it is shown in the diagram, the RRA protocol involves the transmission of 3 messages per call, two from the client and one from the server, right? So in RRA protocol, there is a possibility that the acknowledgement message may itself get lost. So therefore, implementation of RRA protocol requires that the unique message identifiers associated with request message must be ordered, right? So each reply message contains the message identifier of the corresponding request message, and each acknowledgement message also contains the same message identifier. So this helps in matching a request with its corresponding request and an acknowledgement with its corresponding reply. So whenever your client is sending the request message, so you are getting the reply message. मगाच्या पद्धतीने रिप्लाय मेसेज हा कशासाठी असणार आहे, याच्याकडचे एक्नॉलेजमेंट असणार आहे की सर्व्हरला तुमचा मेसेज मिळालेला आहे. देन अगेन क्लायंट विल बी सेंडिंग फॉर दॅट पर्टिक्युलर रिक्वेस्ट, ही इज सेंडिंग द रिप्लाय एक्नॉलेजमेंट मेसेज ओव्हर हियर. So these three calls will be involved in one particular call only. ओके. सो या केसमध्ये क्लायंट कडून जाणारे जे दोन कॉल आहेत त्या दोन्हीमध्ये मेसेज आयडेंटिफायर तुमचा सेम मेंटेन केला जाणार आहे. कशासाठी? कारण वेनेवर द server is maintaining the record of all the acknowledgements coming from the client, so he will match the reply message or the acknowledgement message to the request message over here, and for the same request if he is getting the acknowledgement he will discard this particular acknowledgement. getting? सो काहीतरी रिक्वेस्ट पाठवली आहे, त्याचा रिप्लाय आलाय आणि रिप्लाय मला पोचलाय, अशी जेव्हा मी एक्नॉलेजमेंट पाठवेन तेव्हा ती जी एक्नॉलेजमेंट आहे ती डिस्कार्ड केली तरी पण चालू शकणार आहे सर्व्हरच्या साईडला. ही विल नॉट बी फ्लडिंग हिज डेटा विथ दोज एक्नॉलेजमेंट मेसेजेस. पण प्रत्येक कॉलमध्ये हे तुमचे क्लायंट कडचे दोन आणि सर्व्हरचा एक मेसेज हा मेंटेन याच्यामध्ये केला जाणार आहे. So this is nothing but your request reply acknowledgement protocol, RRE. So for this any example, practical real time example. ओके. सो आता जे योगिता त्यांनी एक्झाम्पल सांगितलेलं की रेजिस्ट्रेशन फॉर्मचं. ओके. सो रेजिस्ट्रेशन फॉर्म भरल्यानंतर त्याचा रिप्लाय मेसेज आला की येस यू आर डन सक्सेसफुली वगैरे वगैरे. तर तो मेसेज तुम्हाला आल्यानंतर ती सर्व्हरकडच्या साईडची तुम्हाला एक्नॉलेजमेंट मिळणार आहे. बरोबर आहे. आता यामध्ये ऍक्च्युली RR प्रोटोकॉल इन्व्हॉल्व्ह होत आहे. RRE म्हटल्यावरती OTP, I think it is a bit confusing, or it can be, we can consider it in RR protocol for OTPs, because your server is asking for some kind of a number for mobile registration and you are sending that particular number. It is not an acknowledgement. जो काही नंबर तुम्हाला मिळालाय तोच तुम्ही पुन्हा एकदा एंटर करतात. बरोबर आहे. व्हेरीफाय युअर ईमेल, आय गेस इट विल बी करेक्ट वन. कारण या केसमध्ये तुम्ही रेजिस्ट्रेशन करत असताना सपोज एखादा म्हणजे तुम्ही रेजिस्ट्रेशन प्रोसेसमध्ये तुमचा ईमेल आय डी टाकला तर तो त्याचा फक्त एक कन्फर्मेशनचा मेल की बाबा तुम्ही रजिस्टर केलेला मेल आय डी करेक्ट आहे का नाही, याचा एखादा जस्ट एक मेसेज किंवा मेल तुम्हाला ड्रॉप होतो. तर त्याच्यावरती काही काही मेल असे असतात की त्याच्यावरती तुम्हाला परत रिटर्न बॅक किंवा कुठली प्रोसेस करायची गरज नसते. तर जस्ट एखादा व्हेरिफिकेशन मेल तुम्हाला आला असेल, सो दॅट वी कॅन कन्सिडर ॲज अ एक्नॉलेजमेंट की त्याच्यावरती तुम्ही परत प्रोसेस करत नाही. तुम्ही डायरेक्टली तो मेल डिलीट जरी केला तरी चालू शकते. पण काही काही केसेसमध्ये असं असतं की जो रेजिस्ट्रेशन केल्यानंतर एक्नॉलेजचा मेल येतो त्या मेलच्या लिंक वरूनच पुन्हा तुम्हाला लॉग इन करावं लागतं. ओके, सो त्या केसमध्ये ती कॅटेगरी थोडीशी सेपरेट ठेवू. फक्त ज्याचं तुम्हाला नोटिफिकेशन आलंय की तुमचा ईमेल करेक्ट आहे आणि त्याचं नोटिफिकेशन आलंय आणि तो मेल तुम्ही डायरेक्टली डिलीट केला, तर अशा केसमध्ये यू कॅन टेक दिस एक्झाम्पल ॲज अ RRA प्रोटोकॉल, verifying your email. Pooja is saying in Army Ledger gives the instruction and others are do the same thing as per the instructions. In Army Leader. So, okay, but why to go for only army leaders? It will be just request and reply. Here, how the acknowledgement will come? Puja. Leader is giving the instruction and other are doing the same thing. Okay, so it will be coming something like request and reply. And here army leader is giving instructions, that means he is not requesting, I think he is ordering something. He is not requesting anything from your teammates. Okay, not an issue. Still good attempt. Verifying email, we can take this example for RRA and the previous case RR protocol, that is the first, that is your registration of in registration process in which you are getting the mail as a registration successful, that kind of scenario. Okay, so these are the three protocols in our RPCs, RRR and RRA protocols. Next, just 2-3 bits are remaining. Okay, so next is client server binding. So it is necessary for a client. So client means actually a client stub to know the location of a server before a remote procedure call can take place between them. So the process by which a client becomes associated with a server so that the calls can take place is known as a binding. So connecting your client with the server, the process is called as a binding. The client server binding process involves proper handling of several issues, like the first one, how does a client specify a server to which it wants to get bound? Second, how does the binding process locate the specified server? Third, when it is proper to bind a client to a server. Fourth, is it possible for a client to change a binding during execution? And the fifth one, can a client be simultaneously bound to multiple servers that provide the same service? So these are the 5 issues while doing the process of client server binding. So these issues are resolved with some of the things, like the first one is server naming. So with which particular server you are going to connect with, so that server name will be stored with the client. So the specification by a client of a server with which it wants to communicate is primarily a naming issue. An interface name mm, has to pass, I think, the type and the instance. Type specifies the instance itself, and instance specifies a server providing the service within that interface. The type part of the interface usually also has a version number field to distinguish between old and the new version of the interface that may have different sets of procedures or the same set of procedures with different parameters. The interface name semantics are based on the arrangement between the exporter and the importer. Therefore, the interface names are created by the users. They are not dictated by the packages. The RPC package only dictates the means by which an importer uses the interface name to locate the exporter. So how you're going to give the name to the specific server, the procedure is involved over here. Then second is server locating. The interface name of a server is its a unique identifier. Thus, when the client specifies the interface name of the server for making a remote procedure call, the server must be located before the client's request message can be sent to it. So mostly this can be done, server location, that can be done by using the two methods. The first is broadcasting, second is binding agent. So what is involved in the broadcasting? So in this method, a message to locate the desired server is broadcast to all the nodes from the client node. The nodes on which the desired server is located return a response message. So this method is easy to implement and is suitable for use for small networks. ओके, सो ब्रॉडकास्टिंग यामध्ये एखादा पर्टिक्युलर सर्व्हर तुम्हाला बाइंड करून घ्यायचा आहे. सो यू विल बी सेंडिंग रिक्वेस्ट टू ऑल द सर्व्हर्स प्रेझेंट इन युअर नेटवर्क. सो the specific server who will be able to respond you or for your request, he will respond back to you, others will not. So this can be implemented for small networks only. Still, this method is expensive. Why? Because in case of large networks, it will be increasing the message traffic definitely due to the involvement of the nodes in the broadcast processing. जर तुमचं नेटवर्क मोठं असेल, मोर दॅन से फॉर एक्झाम्पल 10 or 20 नोड्स, तर त्यावेळेला किती नंबर ऑफ क्लायंट्स आहेत आपण काही सांगू शकणार नाही. आणि प्रत्येकांचे जर असे ब्रॉडकास्ट मेसेज सर्व्हर पर्यंत पोहोचत गेले तर इट विल unnecessarily increase the traffic in your network. Therefore, this method is not suitable, and that's why we are going for the binding agent. That is the second technique, which is based on the idea of using the name server, which is generally used for large networks. So the second, that is binding agent, it is basically a name server used to bind the client to the server by providing the client with the location information of the desired server. So in this method, a binding agent maintains binding table, which is a mapping of server's interface name to its location. All the servers register themselves with the binding agent as a part of their initialization process. Then to locate the server, a client contacts the binding agent. If the server is registered with the binding agent, it returns the handle or the location information of the server to the client. So this process will be like this, in which the client process is there, server process is there, and both these will be going through, the request will be going through the binding agent. So how it will take place? First of all, the server will register himself with the binding agent. So the first will be registration process. Then second is client will request the binding agent for the server's location. सो जी काही सर्व्हरची एंट्री आहे, सर्व्हर काय म्हणणार, मी असं असं या लोकेशनला प्रेझेंट आहे, माझ्याकडे हा डेटा आहे. सो दॅट विल बी विथ बाइंडिंग एजंट. नाउ द क्लायंट विल request the binding agent for the server's location. The binding agent returns the server's location information to the client. So this information will be having the actual server's location. So that's why now the client process will directly proceed towards that particular server. So definitely this process will be decreasing the network traffic involved in this network. So this type of technique will be implemented in case of large networks. Okay. So I think we should stop here. 2 bits are remaining, but I guess it will be overdose for you otherwise. Okay, so till this point, any doubt from your side? Okay, so now you can put your attendance in the chat window.